There are two fantasy shows running in the same universe right now. One is about a hedge knight who may not even deserve the title he carries. He travels with a squire, he enters a tourney, he makes mistakes. He navigates honor in a world that doesn't reward it. The biggest thing at stake in the story is whether he survives his own ambition. That's a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. The other story is about dynasties rotting from the inside, succession crises, civil war, dragons reducing cities to ash. Every dinner conversation is a prelude to bloodshed. Every birth is political. Every silence is strategy. That's House of the Dragon. They're in the same world, but they carry completely different emotional weight. And if you've played D&D long enough, like I have, you've felt both kinds of campaigns. The difference in them isn't dragons, it's scale. In A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, the story zooms in instead of out. There's no fate of the realm breathing down every scene. The tension is almost embarrassingly human. Is he good enough? Is he lying to himself? Is honor worth dying for? What about pride? When he walks into a tourney, he isn't thinking about history, he's thinking about survival, reputation, whether someone will see through him. And that smallness creates something rare in fantasy: vulnerability. The show has room for awkwardness. It has room for characters to misread situations, to be naive, to get embarrassed, to lose something that doesn't shake the continent but devastates them personally. That's low-level D&D done right. Not you fight rats in a basement. I mean emotionally low level, where the stakes are the paladin keeping their oath, the barbarian proving they're more than muscle, the rogue deciding whether to steal from someone who trusts them. Nothing explodes if they fail, but their identity fractures. That's a different kind of tension. And here's the thing most DMs miss. Small stakes force players to define who they are before they define what they can do. When the world isn't ending, you have space to explore character without optimizing every decision. You can afford to be wrong. You can afford to be dramatic. You can afford to be petty. That freedom disappears when the sky is on fire. Now, let's contrast that with House of the Dragon. This is what happens when the campaign begins at Crisis. The realm is already unstable, the dragons are already grown, the succession is already broken. There is no before, there's only escalation. Every scene is loaded, and because of that, there's no breathing room. In a D&D context, this is the campaign where session 1 opens with, "You are the only ones who can prevent the collapse of the kingdom." You haven't even learned each other's backstories, but the fate of thousands rests on your party composition. When the stakes are permanently catastrophic, player psychology shifts. You can even see it at the tables. Players stop experimenting, they stop playing flawed, they stop making selfish decisions. Because selfish decisions in a high epic campaign aren't dramatic, they're destructive. The rogue can't pickpocket the letter for leverage, that might doom the alliance. The bard can't chase romance, that wastes time before the invasion. The wizard can't storm off, the ritual completes in 12 hours. The larger the stakes, the smaller the players become. Not in power, but in personality. Because they're constantly managing catastrophe. It's exhausting. Even when it's cool. Especially when it's cool. And here's the part people don't like to admit. When everything is historic, nothing feels historic. Spectacle without contrast becomes background noise. Dragons flying overhead are awe-inspiring once. The 10th time, it's just weather. This happens in D&D too. If every villain is world-ending, the party stops fearing villains. They start expecting escalation. You've trained them that scale is default. And once scale is default, escalation becomes parity. That's how campaigns end up with, well, actually this god was just a pawn of a greater god. Because there's nowhere else to go. When epic is the starting line, you've already spent your currency. So you must be thinking to yourself, well then, random guy on YouTube, I guess small hedge knight stories are the way to go then. And it's true. Small scale stories are powerful, but they can plateau. If the hedge knight keeps entering tourneys forever and nothing ever ripples outward, eventually it feels contained. And contained can become repetitive. You need some form of growth. You need widening consequence. But that growth should feel like gravity isn't optional. It should feel like the result of character decisions, not a tonal jump. And this is where the third example matters. The early seasons of Game of Thrones didn't start with an apocalypse. They started with a family navigating politics, a girl forced into marriage, a son trying to earn respect, a bastard trying to belong, a father trying to stay honorable in a dishonorable system. Yes, larger threats do exist, but they were distant, whispers. And as characters make personal decisions, the world widened. A moral choice led to execution, and execution led to war. War led to fragmentation, and fragmentation finally led to dragons becoming relevant again. Scale expanded because characters demanded it, not because spectacle required it. Start small. Let players build identity. Let them care about something that isn't abstract. Then, when they're attached to it, let consequences scale. The rival knight joins a faction, the insult sparks a feud, and the feud destabilizes a region. Now, the epic feels earned, because it grew from something human. And maybe, just maybe, if that show had remembered how powerful small stories were, it wouldn't have tried to sprint to spectacle at the end. Honestly, they probably should have just blamed scheduling conflicts. Could have saved us all some stress.